na 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 na
Square
na
round
na.
You know, you need to tune in if you want to hear So we Chad, Josh, Dmitri, and Marcus every Friday.
It's the Square Round Table.
Tune in.
It's the Square Round Table podcast. Tune in every Friday. Let's have a blast. I know at work you had a long day. Just relax and tune in.
Make sure you tune in weekly, every Friday. MajorsOnMusic.com. We also tune on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. So yeah.
Hey, what's going on, my freaks and geeks out there? We are the Square Roundtable. I want to thank all of you guys for joining us tonight. Guys, tonight is a momentous occasion because this is the first Square Roundtable podcast of 2021. Today, guys, we welcome an absolute legend in the comic book industry. Let's all give it up for colorist Mr. Chris Sotomayor.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing good. Yeah, it's like really awesome to have you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Definitely. Like we talked a little bit before, like we got to go into it because like I said, I just got off of another call talking about, just African-American or people of color, pretty much like their representation in the comic book industry. And you were just saying how important that is.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in New York, born and raised, grew up in the Bronx. You don't know by looking at me, but I'm 100% Puerto Rican. My parents, my biological father, my mother, grandfather, grandparents, all the way down, all Puerto Rican through and through, right? Like from the island, from Isabela, from San Juan, from Carolina, all over the island. I've got family, right? And we were talking before about representation, and I had mentioned to you that when I grew up, trying to understand what representation was and what my culture was, and trying to see myself in things that I was watching or reading at the time, it was very sparse around the 70s and 80s. And growing up reading comics, the only two Latino characters that I saw growing up were the White Tiger. He was badass, but the other character was the battling Bantam. And it was this dude dressed up like a chicken with the red thing on his head and big red boxing gloves. And I remember seeing him in a couple of issues of Amazing Spider-Man, and it was the most embarrassing thing I could think of at the time. Like, hang your head in shame, embarrassing.
Right.
So if it wasn't that we had the White Tiger, that was really the only saving grace that we had at the time that I could see. So yeah, representation is really important, because if you don't see yourself in the media, it's like you don't exist.
For sure.
And I mean, I pass, right? But like my wife doesn't pass, my kids, not all of them pass. My wife's family doesn't pass. They're members of my family on my side that don't pass. And you want to see yourself throughout everywhere. I remember, I'm dating myself now, but I remember my grandmother being really upset when Freddie Prinze died. He was the lead actor on this sitcom called Chico and the Man. Yeah, and I hadn't really put it together at the time what that meant and why I would see her crying over this guy that she didn't know, right? But growing up and seeing things now in a much more mature light, I can see how important that must have been to her at the time to see that, to see, this actor, this Latino actor on TV every week, on this show, how heartwarming that was to see yourself, a representation of yourself on the screen. And that was probably the only one that I can remember seeing, the only time I remember seeing a Latino actor on TV, at least for a very, very long time. I can't remember what other shows, maybe on something like an ensemble cast, but this show it revolved around him and his father, and that meant something. So I get it now. I have, the hindsight being 2020. I totally understand now where she was coming from and why that was such a big devastation to her.
Right. And And I can 100% understand that, because like you said earlier, it's like if you don't see yourself in media, it's almost like you don't exist in a way. And I know for me, well, I can't even say it's for me because it's a little before my time too, but I remember my dad, the first kind of superhero movie he introduced me to was it was Meteor Man with Robert Townsend.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that movie, man.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like a, of course based in a comedy, but that was one of the first times you saw like, African American representation of a superhero in cinema.
Right.
It predates Blade and Spawn and all of that good stuff, but yeah, it was just like, wow, okay, it was different. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's crazy that, Chris, that you talk about that, in the 70s and 80s, and for us, like the millennials, who some of us grew up like probably like in the 90s and 2000s, it was still the same, even though they were there. It was a group of them, but you just always felt like, I get it, but I don't feel like that's a representation of like me.
right.
Like, like I tell the guys all the time, I love Black Panther. That's my favorite superhero. But
Right.
I couldn't relate to him because I was like, I don't have all this like high tech stuff, and I can't just
Right.
be a king of a whole nation and walk outside and say all this and that. But when it came to somebody like, like Static Shock, when I see somebody like that, I was like, oh, I could totally relate to him because I'm a nerd, and if I had superpowers, I wouldn't know how to deal with it or be able to, hide it from my parents. And, I could like take a dude out in 2 seconds, but I can't do that because that's part of being a hero. So it's just like that representation it's always been kind of rough when it comes to like, people of color. Cause you see these stories like, okay, like a Luke Cage is like, is Luke Cage is he really going, is a black guy really going to say Sweet Christmas that stays in Harlem? So like
right. No, you don't say that.
Exactly.
Sweet
No.
Christmas.
So it's just you gotta kind of learn how to like enjoy it and not take it. You gotta take it like with a grain of salt.
Right.
Just enjoy it.
Right. Especially like on the topic of having a person of color in like a leading role in a story, and they're taken out so fast. Because I was watching I was catching up on the original Gundam series that came out in the 70s, and one of the main characters is this he's black and he's Latino, and he was taken out like in the 8th episode.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but that's how it goes. I mean, we've seen that in horror movies and sci-fi.
Yeah, that's a
Every
horror
genre,
trope.
man.
That's a horror trope in itself. Like anybody, like,
Yeah.
oh, they feel like a black guy, and they're like, oh, he's not. He's the first one out. He's gonna do something stupid, and he's gonna be the first one down. Like I remember seeing this clip from one of the not Freddy Krueger, but one of the Jason movies, where like the black guy squares up with Jason. I'm like, what are you doing? like he tries to square up and run and tries to fight him. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, he's Jason. You need to be running. Like, everybody else is smart and they're leaving. You're sitting there like, I got this. I'm like, no, bruh. No.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the thing, I guess, like how to balance just the way you take care of a character of color or the way you write them or something, because it always seems like, well, not so much now, I would say, but just historically, it seems like like you said perfectly, Joshua, a black character, this guy has no reason to die, but they wrote it in that he's just going to die early on in the season for no reason.
Right.
It's, so where it's like you have another character that can breathe and, you get to grow with the character and things like that. It's always a weird thing to me, like you said, Chris, especially in the horror genre. Like, I never understood that, why, the black character has to die first and why they can't be the victor in the end. It's like,
Or they're the comic relief.
or the comic relief.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But I wanted to know specifically, like, because I know it's it's just a different way. I guess comic book writers and comic book artists have to like care for characters. And like, was there something specifically that you saw that made you wanted to get into the comic industry, or something that you wanted to do for representation wise?
When I was younger and I saw, like I referenced those two characters, the battling Bantam and the White Tiger, right? This was at an age before I realized that you could make a living in comics. I don't even know if these people were making a living in comics. I mean, the page rates were really low back then for pencilers and stuff, like $20 a page or whatever. I mean, the cost of living was way different too, also. And, you know, people did whatever they had to make ends meet. I get that. But I had no idea that you could make a living doing it until like I went to junior high school maybe. And then that's when I realized that, you know, not only could I make a living at it, I could do something with it, right? So when I started like really pursuing comics as a career path, I sought out people who I identified with better, people who looked like the people who I grew up around, people who looked like my neighbors, right? So the first artist that I encountered and got advice and a critique on my drawing samples was Ernie Colon, right? One of the very few Latino artists in the comic industry. Really nice guy. He took so much time to give me an honest critique and to let me know what it was that I needed to do, what should I be looking at, what should I be thinking about, things like that. One of the other artists that I met soon after that was Dennis Cowan, who introduced me to Michael Davis. You know, where I grew up, one of my best friends was Filipino. There were Chinese kids, Korean kids up the block from me. I was one of like 6 Puerto Rican kids that you know, we all hung out together. I had I had several black friends. What I didn't have was a white friend. Let me put it like that. Where I grew up, I did not have any white friends. I went to school with white kids,
Right.
but on my block where I hung out and the people that I associated with, not one white kid. They weren't there in my neighborhood where I grew up and the neighborhoods I hung out in, right? So like I'd go down to, and I don't know where y'all are from. You guys are Southern, right?
Yeah, we from
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, all right. So I grew up in the Bronx, East Side Bronx. As you go down, you know, the neighborhoods get more diverse. The neighborhoods get way less white. Let's say that, right? So I hung out way down in places I shouldn't have been hanging out in, around people I should not have been hanging out in, and I mean like their ways of making money. Let's say, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I grew up around all that shit. I'm sorry, excuse me. Can I say things like that? Is that cool?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good. Yeah.
All right, I'll try to hold off on the F-bomb. So, you know, so the artists that I identified with, you know, that I felt comfortable around were people of color, because that's what I knew, right? Dennis Cowan was instrumental in me breaking in and doing this for a living. He introduced me to his friend Michael Davis. So freaking influential for me. Such a big opportunity to talk with him. I interned in his studio for years, cool. Right? And this was as Milestone was coming up. You all know about Milestone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course, yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool.
We love that.
So this was in the early 90s. I finished high school. I started going to art school. I met up with Dennis Cowan. Dennis introduced me to Michael Davis. Michael was doing this like very informal kind of class, let's say, where he'd have a bunch of aspiring artists come in, you know, once a week, and they'd do these homework assignments, and they'd get critiques from everyone, not just in the room, but Michael would give a critique, and he usually he'd make us cry, right? That's how vicious the critiques were. But we all learned so much from these critiques. And every once in a while he'd have like a friend come by, like Dennis would come by or Walt Simonson would come by, and we'd get feedback from them, which it was invaluable, right? So I went to a couple of these classes, and then Mike invited me to intern in the studio. So I'm doing art school. I had a part-time job, and I'm interning in Mike's studio. I didn't sleep, right? And I would do all my homework assignments for school on the weekends, which is a big mistake when you're doing like oil paintings.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know anything about oil painting.
Yes.
That stuff doesn't dry.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Not only does that not dry, but remember, I'm living in the Bronx. Michael's studio is in New Jersey, and I'm going to school in Manhattan. So from my place in the Bronx to art school is about a good hour on the subway, right? And then if I want to go to Mike's studio, it's about another hour from school to Mike's studio, right? I'm doing my homework assignments on the weekends. So Monday morning, from my painting class, I'm on the subway with this big stretched canvas. It's got to be like, I don't know, like 3 feet by 5 feet with an oil painting on the subway during rush hour. The train is packed. You got people going downtown in their like nice trench coats.
Right.
Oh no.
Trench coats that at the beginning of the trip was nice, and then by the end of the trip had gray oil paint and shit all over them.
Oh my goodness.
I was such a mess during that time, but I learned so much. It was like being in Mike's studio was a crash course in comics. Because I got to color, I got to paint, I got to draw backgrounds, I got to ink backgrounds, I got to draw layouts, I got to draw figures every once in a while, and then Mike would like fix it. I did everything in that place from get his coffee to inking backgrounds, right? Or cutting frisket, like masking paper over parts that would be airbrushed, right? So I learned so much about the ins and outs of art, and not just art, but business too. Because at this time, Michael and Dennis and Dwayne McDuffie and Derek Dingle, they were all starting Milestone. So like I come into the office, into the studio, and there's the Milestone Bible sitting out, and we all have to do like different color mock-ups for Paragon, who was Icon, right? This is before they called him Icon. So it's me and like 3 other guys, and we're all trying to figure out, all right, well, what if he's got a black cape? What if he's got a blue cape? And, you know, black here and green here, and just messing around with them. And I mean, they knew what they wanted to do. They knew they wanted to go with the green cape, but they got to see other ways, you know, that aren't green and red. But, you know, so we're tinkering with some of that stuff, and I'm learning about what an editor expects from them, because they're all like editing all these projects and overseeing these projects for the books. So I'm like a fly on the wall for all this really amazing stuff going on, right? And I soaked it up like a sponge, and it was a great opportunity from there. Like Mike went off in this other venture after Milestone, and I went with him to that. That was in California. So I lived there for a couple of years, like literally 2 years to the day, 2 years. Was not a big fan of California at the time. I mean, it was, I went out there under not the best circumstance, so I didn't really get to appreciate it.
To experience it.
Yeah. Also, I didn't drive at the time. Right? So it was, like I said, not the best circumstances. So I'm walking everywhere. I'm walking 2 miles every Wednesday to the comic shop, you know, back and forth from my place to the comic shop. I'm walking like a quarter mile to work. And we're doing like all these all-nighters and shit. And, you know, the hours are really intense. And, you know, we didn't have a big staff, so we got to like double up and triple up with our duties. And it was just, it was a wild time. But having the perspective that I had from the studio with the people who helped get me there, that was as invaluable as actually doing the work itself. I'm really long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, this is perfect.
You're fine. You're perfect. Keep it going.
I love those stories. I could sit here and listen to it all day.
All day.
Right.
Like, when you said milestone, I was just like this.
Oh yeah, I was just chilling. I was like, say it all, man. Tell us everything.
Chris, you have no idea, because I'm a fan of Milestone, but these two right here, Demetrius and Marcus, listen, when I told them you were coming on the podcast, they almost did a backflip. So they can listen.
Yeah, tell us all the information, man. Every little bit.
Look.
Well, listen, I'm excited to be working on Milestone again.
Yeah,
but now in a much different capacity, because back then, like when Milestone was starting out, I was like the kid who was helping them out at conventions, getting everyone water and making sure they had Sharpies and shit. And now I'm actually working on the books.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and I'm getting to work with Dennis, and I'm getting to work on stuff that's not Dennis, and but still Milestone. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be in this position, to have it come full circle like that. Like that's
unheard of.
That's
It's crazy.
Yeah, I love it. Like I saw it from behind the scenes, get off the ground, and now I'm back coming around, and I'm actually helping to put stuff out there and make a new mark. So yeah, I'm like all kinds of happy. I was working on one of the books today.
Oh wow!
Oh wow! Could you tell us which one?
Yeah, I was about to say, can you give us a little information? I was about to ask that question. Like, let us know.
A little exclusive,
right?
Well, they got a book. They got the static book that Kyle Baker was doing. That one's done, right?
Whoa.
That's wrapped. That you'll see next month.
Okay.
I'm working on a book called Duo with Greg Pak and Koi Pham.
Let's
know
do it.
exactly what that is. Yes.
Yeah, they haven't released a lot of it. I'm like in the middle of issue 3, so we're gonna, when that comes out, I'm pretty sure I'll have 4 issues done by the time that starts coming out.
Okay.
And then I know Dennis is working on some Icon and Rocket stuff. I haven't seen any of that yet. I'm hoping that stuff comes across my computer soon. I'm gonna probably message Dennis this week and see where he's at with that stuff. I know he's super busy, so I'm not going to rush him. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't wait till next month. I've been counting down the days. I was like, when they announced it, I was like, February 2021. Okay, I'm there. I'm ready.
Yep. It'll be very cool. It'll be very cool. The Kyle Baker stuff I've seen is awesome. The duo stuff, everything Koi Pham's been doing, and Greg Pak. Greg Pak came up with this great story for Duo. I think it fits in really nicely with Milestone, even though it's a new thing that we haven't seen before. It belongs in there. So and I know some of the stuff Dennis was doing for what's that book? I want to say Zero. But yeah, that stuff looks phenomenal from what I've seen. So when that stuff hits, I think it's going to rival what he was doing on The Question with Bill. I don't know if you saw The Question.
Yeah, I saw that before he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you dig that, like this stuff that he's doing on the new book, it's like that stuff in hyperdrive.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely can't wait.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on them issues like immediately when they come out. I'm like, I'm there. Already opened up the book, cracked open and everything. Collected all of them.
Ooh. Certainly.
But yeah, Chris, how does coloring work? Like, do they just send you a file of line art or what?
Yeah, I get black and whites usually from the publisher. They send me scans, whether it's Marvel or DC or whatever. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, all right, Dark Knight Returns. I know you guys know that, right?
Yeah.
So that book, you've seen that book. It's painted. It has that painted look to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a process called blue line coloring, right? So they have the artwork printed on watercolor paper in blue, and they also have the artwork printed on an acetate overlay in black, right? So what they used to do in those days, they don't do those books anymore, but they were gorgeous when they did, right? So they'd have the blue line artwork on watercolor paper, and then they'd have the acetate overlay on top. So what the colorist did was they would tape it together so that it lined up, they'd flip up the acetate and then paint with watercolors and gouache and acrylics and whatever else on the blue line copy, and then flip the acetate overlay on top so you could see the color through the acetate, and then you'd see like the nice crisp black. Computer coloring is a little bit like that, right? So you have the document with the line art floating on top, so you can't screw that up too bad. And then underneath you have a blank document. So you're really painting underneath the line art so you don't mess it up. And then when you want to do effects, then you can start painting on another sheet or another document on top of the line art, like if you want to change some of the colors and stuff. So in that way, we can do all these blends and different effects and brush strokes without screwing any of the drawing up, and just kind of have all that stuff live underneath the line art, right? And I do all my stuff in Photoshop. I have for decades. There's a lot of other software that people use now, like Clip Studio and Procreate, and those are all great. They do everything Photoshop can do pretty much, except color profile. There's just like technical things here and there that you have to tweak in Photoshop before you send it out to the printer. So for me, it just makes more sense to, instead of learning a whole nother set of programs, to just keep going in Photoshop, because that stuff mimics Photoshop anyway. So I'll just stick with Photoshop.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And go ahead, Joshua. Yeah, you got something.
Oh, I mean, I don't want to cut you off, Chad. I mean, you know.
No, you're good, bro. Go ahead.
All right. But yeah, Chris, what kind of what kind of, what was I gonna say? What kind of graphic tablet do you use, or do you use a graphic tablet for Photoshop?
I've got right here. You can see that.
Wow.
I've got my Cintiq. I can't turn it so you can see the screen, I don't think. Oh, there we go.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's nice.
That's
So,
really
yeah,
nice.
Oh, that's Duo. Don't look at that.
Oh,
I just realized what I had up on there.
Hey, we got an exclusive now.
Hey,
Yes.
sneak peek.
There you go.
Yes.
Look at that exclusive, everybody.
Awesome.
Can't see what's going on anyway. But yeah, I got a Cintiq that I work off of. I love this thing. It's a monster. This is my second one, actually. They last me, like, the last one lasted me 11 years.
Oh wow.
So this one I'm sure will, go hopefully for another 8 or so. I would love that. But yeah, I work on this, and I have a dual monitor set up. So like I'm looking at you guys over here and I'm working over here. And this works just like painting, on illustration board or whatever. I have my pen and I draw directly on the screen. Kind of like, like an iPad Pro, what you would do with that. Yeah, but it's a little bigger, as you can see. It's a little clunkier, so I have it on this arm that I can move around. That makes working a little easier and a lot more comfortable, because, I'm sitting here all day. I start shifting around like this and stuff. And, I want to be able to move this stuff around so that I can work on whatever comfortably. Because I'm here for like 8-10 hours a day, so I have to be comfortable.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are those like? What are those hand cramps like? Because I know it's gonna be crazy.
I get up every half hour just about. I set little goals for myself, right? So if I can get all the backgrounds done on a page, I'll do that, and then I'll get up, I'll go get something to drink, or I'll get some Oreos or whatever. Then I'll come back and, I'll see if I could do like half the figures on the page, then I'll get up again. I got to keep getting up. I got to stretch, I got to move around. I don't want to get any blood clots or anything. So yeah, I set little goals, get up, walk around. Luckily I work from home. My wife is home too all day. So, we talk, I play with the dogs, come back in here, and I'm here from, I start working about 10 in the morning. I keep going till about 6, and then I take a dinner break, and then I'm back in here at about usually 9 or 10 at night, and then I'm here for another hour or two, just kind of wrapping up my day. Or if I'm teaching, sometimes I teach an art class, a coloring class. Yeah, I do that virtually too, so I like never leave this room. So if I'm teaching, then I teach from 9 to usually 11. Sometimes we go a little over, but yeah, I'm here all the time for everything.
Yeah, that's
so it's got to be comfortable. I've got
There
my
you go.
chocolate.
What kind of
Huh?
chocolate you got?
Oh, I like Ghirardelli's.
Oh,
See,
the
Joshua,
fancy,
that's
that fancy
Yeah.
chocolate. That,
that's my
Yeah.
mom's favorite chocolate.
That-
That's
Oh
why I
yeah,
asked.
That's my splurge. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris, that has to be the dream, being able to just draw all day. Because Chad can tell you, I wish I could draw all day long.
I've gotten to the point where I spend most of my day coloring right during the week. And then on the weekends, I've started just drawing for myself,
yeah.
right? It's a really odd way to kind of relax, considering I'm here doing it anyway. But like for the stuff that I do for myself, I do different things, right? I have some sketchbooks that I started drawing back in again. And I try to just brush up on things that I know already anyway, just to stay in practice.
But yeah, Chris, how do your commissions work? Like, how do you go about capturing someone's vision?
Usually, I'll have a conversation with the client first and just figure out what they want. Most of the time, it's nice and easygoing. They're just like, hey, like the last one I did, just draw me a Green Goblin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, cool. I haven't drawn Green Goblin very much, so let me do that. So I'll just kind of figure out what it is I want to do. Sometimes I'll send like a basic sketch their way just to make sure I'm on the right track. Because I remember one time at a convention, this woman came up to me and said, hey, can you draw me a classic Rogue? So I'm like, all right, cool, Rogue, old school. So I drew Rogue, right? But like Rogue, right around, see, I'm older than she is, so my definition of classic Rogue is much different than her definition.
Yeah.
She's thinking Jim Lee Rogue. I'm thinking like Paul Smith, John Romita Jr. Rogue.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I drew, and she didn't dig it, and I was like, oh, all right, fine. So we just kind of went our separate ways. That's why I try to make sure I shoot off like a quick sketch first to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Because, this guy says Green Goblin. I'm thinking, all right, cool, John Romita Green Goblin. He might be thinking like Humberto Ramos Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And I'm, so I make sure first. And he's like, yeah, classic Green Goblin. So as long as we're cool on like the content, the subject matter, what I do is, usually they know what they're going to get pretty much. Cause I send them pictures and stuff of what I've done, on my own, and we're usually okay. But yeah, getting over that first hurdle is the main thing, making sure that the thing is right. The content is right.
Yeah.
That's such a funny thing though.
Yeah.
Or what'd you say?
I said Instagram is good for that.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
True.
Your Instagram photos be good. Like I saw the like I said before the podcast, I saw the Batman Beyond one, the Icon one,
right,
and a couple other ones, and I was like, yeah, he's got it. Like that Batman Beyond one, I had to like post that one because it was so good.
Yes, bro.
Yeah, it was nice.
Demetrius loves Batman Beyond.
I love
he loves
Batman. Yes.
I love it, but Demetrius is a fanboy for Batman.
Man, nice. I remember being a little kid when it first came out. I was like, "What is this?" And then, like, I swear, I said like I was quoting a lot of the lingo for like around my grandma for the longest time, like saying sway and whatnot all the time to her. Like, what is that?
Oh man. That show had probably the best opening theme ever.
Yes. That opening theme is just so good.
You know what I found out? The part where it was like it spun around him and it looked like it was like a 3D. They said that was like an action figure or something, and they shot it on like a spinning table, and then they did like some other. They say it was like artwork and something else. I was like, really? Because it looks like it's CGI. I was like, it blew my mind.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Best opening to any show.
Oh yeah, that's in top. That's in my like top 5.
Yeah,
like easy.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Just Batman in general just has everybody else beat. Like,
Yeah.
You just can't. Yeah, you just can't do too much better than that. But I do think that's hilarious, Chris. When you try to get a commission from like a 21-year-old, and you got to ask them, like, okay, look, before I get started, what's your definition of old school?
Right.
You're like 10. So,
Yeah.
Like we
like,
talking
old school.
I mean, like when they
Right.
first came out, we talking old school like when they first came out, or we talking like more recent old school, like when they were growing up? Like,
Right. Yeah, I need that context, man. That'll make it or break it.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, what were you about to say, John?
What were you gonna say, Chad? Nah, you good.
Oh no, I was just gonna say they're like, yeah, old school, like the Tobey Maguire movies, like that's like, like
the Tobey Maguire movie with the Green Goblin in it, not the original.
That Green Goblin.
That one.
Right.
Willem Dafoe, man. Willem Dafoe.
Right. I want the tech Green Goblin, not the skin Green. I don't want
Right.
Speaking of like Spider-Man, Chris, how do you feel about like Miles Morales? As a character, how he's developed, over the years, even like getting his own movie and hopefully live action. Like, how do you feel about that character just and all?
Listen, when I first started reading Spider-Man, of course, Peter Parker, I should say that's my Spider-Man, right?
Should.
but the whole appeal of Spider-Man for me when I was a kid was that anyone could be Spider-Man.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that he's covered head to toe,
Right.
You don't know who's in there. That could be anyone. There were times when Daredevil played Spider-Man for a little bit, in the comics, just to kind of throw people off the scent a little bit. I love that stuff, right? Miles Morales as Spider-Man, my favorite character.
Yeah.
I love him as Spider-Man.
Seriously.
Yeah.
He captures that youthful energy.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it. He's got that wonder. He's got such a different outlook on life and the world. And I think if I was Spider-Man when I was his age, I would have the same reaction to everything.
Yep.
Just like, oh shit, that's cool. What the hell is that? Just completely taken over by what was going on around me, not knowing what the hell I was doing or how I was doing it, if I was doing it right. Like that whole thing, that's Spider-Man to me. Just screwing it up and fixing it, stumbling and getting up and just, you don't stop. He's relentless. I love that Spider-Man. And that design.
I was just about to ask you about that.
That is the best design. That design is it's so nice.
Sick.
Yeah, I want to curse so much right now because I love that design.
Hey, let it loose a little bit,
That design fucking kicks ass.
There we go.
See, there you go. There it is.
It really does. It just the silhouette of that design, the way it works at night against the black background. Oh, that is kick ass. Yeah.
No, totally.
Yeah. I can't wait to see him live action. I want to see a live action Miles Morales.
I cannot wait, man.
Seriously.
The games and the movies, they do him like absolutely like great. Like I don't know who the writers are. Well, I know the writers for the film, but like for the games, but whoever it is, they understand so much just culturally and just like you said, him as a like teenage superhero, like they get everything right. Like it's so I can, like you said, I relate more to him than I did with the Peter Parker Spider-Man, and it's crazy because that's the one you grew up with. But now we grown men, and we like, no, I relate more to Miles. So it's awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, and I really should not relate to Miles, but man, he's got me.
He's got it.
I get it. Yeah, and just where he's growing up and the neighborhood he's in, that's it.
Yes, and I know you can appreciate that.
Oh hell yeah! Yeah, that Spider-Verse movie. That's my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Oh
now.
yeah, that was good. Like
100%.
the art style, the way they did it, like that trippy like comic book feel to it. Like I love that. I can watch that movie so many times. Like
I have watched it many times.
Yeah, Netflix pretty much knows that I'm gonna watch that movie pretty much, religiously. Like they're like, oh, Spider-Verse again. I'm like, yeah.
Ain't
nothing wrong with that, man. That's a great movie.
Yeah, and the sequel, like I'm ready for that too.
I'm ready for
that sequel. Like it's this year though, right? Or is it this year or next year? Oh, okay. I was getting a little excited. I thought it was this year. I'm like, we need something in 2021. We need it.
Can't come soon enough. Whenever
it can't.
Yeah,
it really can't.
But,
yeah.
But yeah, Chris, have you ever done any coloring for Spider-Man?
Yeah, I did. There was a Breakout miniseries that I did, and I did an arc in Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh wow.
Oh shit, over Scott Eaton. I've done some Avengers issues with Spider-Man. I did some Marvel Adventure Spider-Man. Some Web of Spider-Man backup stories, and some Amazing Spider-Man covers very early on, like late 90s, early 2000s. Okay. Yeah, like around there. Haven't done Spider-Man in a long time. I finished a run on Deadpool, but that's not Spider-Man. Nothing's as cool as Spider-Man. Sorry.
Look, Deadpool's pretty cool too.
Yeah, Deadpool's got cool. Deadpool and his whole expanded multiverse that he's got going on now. Like I think that's still cool too. Like I was like, oh. So.
Deadpool was actually the first Marvel book I worked on.
Oh wow.
So it was nice to come back around and do a run on Deadpool for the last few issues. Yeah.
I definitely love the one where he's in the throne. Like that's,
that's
so cool.
But King Deadpool,
Yes, that's so awesome. But I wanted to ask you, like I wanted to get your opinion on how you felt about because we talked a lot about Miles Morales and how he's handled. And once again, that character, it seems like he's been out a lot longer than he has. Like it's ridiculous. But but I wanted to know, like, how do you feel about a lot of the way like cinema like takes the way a character looks? Like for instance, like in X-Men, how a lot of them switch to like leather outfits, you know what I'm saying? Like, or really monotone colors instead of like the bright, vibrant colors of like comic books. Like, how do you feel about that? Or are you a fan of it? Or
I think stuff like that, you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has shown that there is a way to do it.
Yeah.
Where you can have some bright and colorful costumes and still have it look like, you know, quote unquote, the real world.
Right.
It fits in at least. And you can have a character like a god and one in metal armor and then, you know, a super soldier all together, and like the god isn't in charge, it's the super soldier.
Right.
You know, those movies really test boundaries in a lot of ways like that, and it pulls it off every time. I you know, whatever formula they're using, I hope they stick with it.
Yeah.
It seems like, I mean, you talk about drab costumes and leather and stuff, that's like X-Men, and those guys were kind of from the outside coming into comic movies. Like Bryan Singer was like, oh, this would be a good sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Not, oh, this would be a great superhero movie. This would be a great Marvel movie. Yeah, he was looking for a sci-fi vehicle, so he made it look like sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I think it's apparent in his approach from that one to the second one to the third one and to some of the others down the line, you know, between him and whoever else was kind of spearheading some of those last couple of movies. You know, they weren't really as entrenched in the comic book part of it, into like the source material, the origins of those characters. Not like Kevin Feige at Marvel,
right.
or the support that he had behind him with Jon Favreau and Ryan Coogler and all the other directors, you know, where they were kind of fans of this stuff coming up anyway. So those directors were looking to make superhero movies, whereas you got these X-Men guys and they're looking to make a sci-fi movie with these characters.
Yeah.
Not, it's kind of, it's not the way I would do it. I wouldn't want to make I mean, you can make a spy movie like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's a superhero movie, but it's got espionage DNA in it, right? Whereas like those X-Men movies, those are sci-fi movies first, but they have mutants in those roles.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's the best approach all the time. So I think there's a way to do it, and we have the roadmap in front of us. Even the DC movies, for whatever you think of them, they're successful in a lot of ways, whereas they're making superhero movies first and foremost.
Right.
So I'll give them that credit. They may not be my favorite superhero movies, but I do respect where they're coming from. And even I'm not really a Snyderverse guy.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I respect that they're giving him the opportunity to finish that movie the way he kind of wanted to finish it.
Oh yeah.
Or at least finish it in a hindsight as information kind of way that he's doing it now, I guess. So I'm still curious. I'll see it because I'm a superhero fan and I love, any of that geek shit. But I will. There are definitely movies in that whole thing that I did not enjoy, and Justice League was probably something that I didn't enjoy as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I'll still watch whatever he has to say about Justice League to see what the differences are, just out of a curiosity.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
All that said, I hate when these guys come up in my Twitter feed and they're like, release the Snyder Cut. And I'm just like, block. I can't take that shit. I'll talk about something completely different. And then they're like, release the Snyder Cut right up in my mentions. And I'm like,
what?
Like, why?
Wait,
like,
why?
Yeah.
Talking about
like,
it.
why?
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about that. You're just like, Snyder Cut. And they're like,
it's so. I'll never
that's-
talk about
that's-
the Snyder Cut. I don't care.
I get it.
I'll check it out, just to check it out. But
Mm.
you see my Twitter feed, I never talk about the Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
And then these guys, they slide up in there, and I'm, no, man. No, stay on topic.
Right, stay on topic. Exactly.
we were
Like,
definitely
man.
going to talk about the Snyder Cut. Now we can't dredge into that because
Like I'm talking about sandwiches, and you bring up the Snyder Cut. Man. It's
Snyder
like,
Yeah,
what
just
are
out
you
of nowhere.
talking about?
Or Johnny Depp.
oh yeah.
And I respect where you're coming from with Johnny Depp, but I didn't mention Johnny Depp.
Right.
It's like,
No.
it's like you got to let everybody know about everything in every feed. Like they got to
Oh,
Snyder
God.
Cut here, Snyder Cut here, Snyder Cut here, Snyder Cut
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it's just because you're associated, it's like it don't mean don't come to me with that comment. It's like,
Yes. And
that's
really,
crazy.
in the grand scheme, what the hell am I gonna do?
I mean, well,
He
you obviously have his phone number. And
I must, right?
You obviously talk to him like every day. You can get on the phone with him, talk to him. Like, hey, release the Snyder Cut. They're wanting it.
Right.
But
Right. Release the
just
Snyder
roll
Cut
with some of the
with
costumes.
Johnny Depp inserted into it.
Right?
There you go.
Just place him in there. He doesn't have to be in a costume. Just
No.
let's pop him in there. Walk him across the screen for about 5 seconds, and we're good.
that's it. You're good. You're
Just
good.
deep fake him right in.
Exactly. Put his face on, wherever Jared Leto's gonna be, and
Wherever.
keep it moving.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that would be.
That would actually make it a lot better of a movie.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, so I really wanted to know though a little bit more about your process, Chris. So when you get a project, you talked about that pretty much the technicals of what you have to do as far as designing or coloring your the sketches or the line art that you get. But as far as the context of the story, I wanted to know how much do you need to know prior to doing like let's say if you're doing Batman or something like that, how much do you need to know about that particular comic?
even just knowing it's Batman, like that bit of context helps so much, because I would color Batman much differently than I would color Superman or Captain America or anything like that. Shit, I would even color Superman differently than I would Captain America, right? So context helps a lot. I try to make sure I get the script before I start coloring. You know, when the artwork starts coming in, I like to have the script. If I can have the script a couple of days before that, then even better. Most of the time, I won't even read the whole script, which I really should more often than I do. But I'll at least have the script open and I'll read it page by page as I go with the artwork, so that I can know what's going on. And even more than just like what time of day it is and stuff like that, like the really basic stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I want to know if it's action, if there's some kind of conflict in the dialogue, or if it's physical conflict, if it's just calm talking heads, if someone's having an emotional moment. Like all that stuff informs what I'm going to do and how I'm going to treat the page. If it's just talking heads, then I'm not going to throw in like super bright reds and yellows and shit all over the place, because it's just talking heads. You don't need that stuff. Like, I'll save those hot colors for when there's action, when there's something to really, you know, something it deserves. If it's talking heads, you know, you can play with the lighting a little bit, calm it down, keep it a little simpler, quieter, you know, not super rendered or anything like that. You don't need that stuff. But yeah, you definitely need context. I like to talk to the artist if I can. I like to talk to the writer if I can. Like all that stuff helps. Because I want it to be a seamless thing, right? I don't want it to be like, you know, a fan looks at a page and says, "Oh, I see where the inker fucked that up." I want it to look like everyone belongs, right?
Gotcha.
Like everyone's doing one job, and it all looks like it all belongs together. I don't want it to look like I did some weird shit or I lit something wrong, because that'll take you right out of the story.
Oh
Yeah.
Everything, like we're doing comics, right? Everything's got to be in service to the story. So that starts with the writer. So I want to know what the writer has, if the writer has any ideas or anything he wants to get across on the page that maybe the penciler didn't put in an obvious way. Like if there's a micro expression, and I've done this before. I've screwed up like coloring a face, not in the way it was lit, but the way muscles moved in the face and the brow. And I've had to kind of rethink that and start pushing them in different ways, because surprise and anger, you know, when you're dealing with it in subtle ways and subtleties, or surprise and worry, let's say, they look very similar until you start furrowing the brow the right way and pushing up the front parts of the eyebrows enough. Like then it all starts to change in all these little subtle ways. So if a character's surprised and I make him look worried, you know, I've completely screwed it up just by not putting in like the right amount of wrinkles or scooping the eyebrows up the way they're supposed to be, you know, and then I gotta fix it, or it doesn't make sense to the story, you know. There very early in my career, I remember an issue of Captain America where I fucked that up, and I wasn't paying attention. You know, I was green, and I was coming in on this book, and thank God Andy Kubert caught it, and he was like, "Hey, can you just kind of bring up the eyebrows a little bit?" Because I made him look angry. I had him like this, and he's supposed to be like this. You know, like it's such a small difference.
No, that's crazy. It's tiny difference.
Yeah, it's a small difference, but it's a huge difference in storytelling. So I need as much information as possible to make sure I don't screw it up, and to make sure that everyone who comes before me looks as good as they can look, and I don't make anything look like just weird, right? Because I could easily ruin the shape of a face, or just, you know. There are times when I've seen, there was a book I worked on with an artist who was a little on the new side, and they brought in a new inker they were trying out on something. And the inker had inked the page, had inked a face where he had put this line on the outside of this woman's face from where the penciler drew it. Like instead of inking on the line, he inked on the outside of the line and totally blew up that side of the face. So I had to come in and start shading in the face like really deep on the cheek, right? And a little bit on the brow. I had to start it. And then just right here, I had to bring it all the way in just to kind of slim that side down. Like that's the kind of thing where we all have to work together.
Yeah.
Right. Because if I let that go, then that looks bad on me.
Right.
And also, you know, this inker was new. What am I going to do? I'm going to make him look stupid. I'm going to leave it there and let him catch all that bullshit. So no, I'm going to fix it, and he'll see it. When he gets copies of the book, he'll see it and he'll be like, "Oh."
Be like, "Oh, thank God."
Right. God, he covered me. He made sure I was okay. Because
we gotta be allies in a way. We're all teammates, and I've been very fortunate. The last few books I've worked on, like Batman Beyond and Deadpool, and The Question, where I've made sure that I'm a good teammate, and everyone else also in turn, because I try to be a good teammate, they make sure they're a good teammate, right? So on Batman Beyond, the anchor I was working with, Sean Parsons, he made sure to give me a heads up and let me know, hey, you're going to get this many pages by this day. And he would just start sending me pages before I would get them from DC, because DC I'd have to wait till the end of the day. Whereas if Sean's sending me the pages, I can get them right then and there at the beginning of the day and just start getting rolling on them. So that was really important for me to get the book done on time, because we weren't running late, but we were running right up to the deadline.
Right.
So making sure that those pages flowed in and out at the rate that we did, I mean, that's invaluable. And I know the editor loved it, because he would come to me and he'd send me an email saying, hey, you know, we're starting to get these pages in. I don't know if you've got them already. And then I'd send him the first half of the book already done. And he's like, oh shit, that's great. Thank you so much. And I'm like, there you go. You know, that's what teammates do.
Yeah.
And on Deadpool, there's an issue of Deadpool. I won't say which. There was a panel where Deadpool's got these other kids around him, and the wrong kid is in a different panel, right? The penciler drew the wrong kid in a panel, and the inker he inked the kid. Looked beautiful, but inked the kid, but it was the wrong kid, and it was really hard to keep track, because I know the penciler was working out of sequence, because I think the script was still being refined, or maybe he only got half the script. So by the time he started working on that set of pages, he had the wrong kid in the wrong panel. So luckily I can draw a bit. I redrew the kid so that it was the correct kid, and I put the wrong kid in the right panel, and then the right kid in the right panel. So I was able to move that around, and instead of waiting for the editor or the penciler or the inker to let me know, hey, this is messed up, I noticed it, I fixed it, I sent it to the editor, and I sent her both versions of the page and said, hey, I think this is the wrong kid here. You know, here's a patch that I did. If you like it, we can just go with it. And if not, then have Gerardo draw a new patch.
Yeah.
So, but it worked out fine. So I saved the penciler from having to go and stop what he's doing, go back to the other issue, fix this kid on this panel and fix this other kid. And that's like half a day's work for him, you know, between drawing the figure and then setting it up in the page, having it inked, and then having it scanned and sent back to me. That's like half a day's work for all involved. Whereas I took an hour and I redrew the kids, and like everything's done and no one has to worry about it.
Huh.
So
That's awesome.
So it's a lot of improvising.
Yeah. Look,
it's the job.
I got to take my hat off to you, Chris, because I promise you, when I was graduating from high school and I was going to college, I was like, okay, I want to go to art school because I want to do comic book art and, you know, comic books because I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I started to like research into it and, you know, look at, you know, documentaries about comic book artists. And, you know, they were saying the things like what you're saying. And I was like, I know that's exactly what I'm not going to do. I know I'm not going to like, my mind is not going to like stay focused on it. So my first half of college, I was an artist. And I was like, man, I don't think this is going to work. So I had to figure it out. So I just switched to film, but I got to keep my art background as a minor. Right. So it's so funny to hear you talk about all this because while you talking in my head, I'm like, and that's exactly why I rather read it or write for it, but that's exactly why I didn't choose it. But I really do take my hat off to you because that's being an artist is real tough because sometimes you have those deadlines and, you know, you just have to improvise on the spot. So, yeah. I take my hat off to you as a fellow artist.
Thank you. And as a person that doesn't do any art and I'm just hearing all these terms flying at me, I definitely take my hat off to you because I'm just like, yeah, color this, deep colors there, cut shades this here. I'm like, I'm just like, man, that's a lot of work. And then I appreciate that because everything looks good at the end of the day. So, like, I got to take my hat off to you too because that's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, same here because I'm terrible at shading. I can't shade to save my life. So yeah, what you do is really dope.
Thanks.
For lack of a better term.
Right. Well, no, it's definitely dope, 100%. And the biggest thing I wanted to know though, because it's just a lot. Like you were talking about ways that you would shade Batman versus Superman, and I'm like, okay, I can see that, of course, because you know both superheroes have totally different themes. But then you said, okay, yeah, I would shade Superman and Captain America totally different, and I'm just like, okay, I don't see that. So just like that little bit of like technicality, I want to know, like, was that something that you learned during your time in school, or was this something you picked up like learning from Dennis and working with like early milestone stuff? Like
that would be that kind of stuff would be working in Mike's studio around like the milestone years.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like I got to see everything, right? I wore so many hats and did so many jobs that prepared me for what I'm doing now. Like I found out a few years ago that not every colorist knows how to draw, right? And that sounds weird to me. Like I'm not a penciler. I couldn't do what they do. I couldn't build a world from scratch the way they do it, right? I couldn't do a monthly grind. I'm probably the most mediocre penciler that you would have to wait years for a book if I was doing it. Right? Yeah. There's no way anyone would be waiting for me, right? So like I'm much better suited to this job, but being able to draw as much as I do, I learned is such an asset because so many other people don't, I guess. And like I said, I'm not the best. There are plenty of other colorists who draw better than I do, right? I could count on my hands and feet how many colors draw better than I do. But the fact that the colorists who do know how to draw usually do the job better, number one. The colorists who know how to draw also do the things like I explained where I can draw, you know, like the right kid on a panel or, you know, fix a face or things like that. That stuff editors find invaluable. And that's all stuff that I learned working in that studio. Because I was inking backgrounds, I was inking figures, I was drawing the layouts. You know, I learned the art side, I learned the business side, all in those couple of years. It was an amazing experience with an amazing group of people. And all of that informed where I'm at now. And I still carry a lot of the things that I learned back then from my peers, because I probably learned more in that studio than I did in art school, because that was on the job training, right? Like art school was, okay, imagine you're drawing this, and like that was it. In the studio, I was drawing the thing
I
that they
get
wanted
that.
me
Yeah.
to imagine drawing. I was like, all right, well now I'm drawing the thing. You know, I'm actually doing the work. And if I fucked it up, I was reprimanded or I was taken off that thing to go do another thing. You know, Mike would yell at me, Chris, what the hell are you doing? You fucked that up. Go sort out the closet. Call someone else to fix what I fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't tell you how many times I was sorting out that freaking closet. But it was, but I made those mistakes fewer times because of that. You know, it was that negative reinforcement.
They're like, back to the closet.
Yeah. And for some reason, that closet was always a mess. I would fix it up, and then 2 days later, it was a mess again. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, they're like, Chris mess up the closet again.
Throw everything around. He'll clean it up. Don't worry about how much you do.
I had everything nice and organized. 2 days later, the whole thing looked like it was ransacked, and I had to clean it up again.
It was like they said, "Oh, he messed up. Oh, let's take all this work down. All that work he put in that closet.
That must have been it. That had to have been it. Yeah.
But you made a good point, though. I like when you said that just being able to wear, I guess, multiple hats is like invaluable to like an editor or somebody that wants to hire a colorist or things of that nature. But I wanted to know, just in general, like for somebody that's like right off the street, for me, if I wanted to be a colorist tomorrow, or if I wanted to work in the comic book industry, what's the best way to market yourself? And also, are things like apps like Instagram or DeviantArt, are those great vehicles to market yourself as a comic book artist specifically?
I think social media is the best thing and also the worst thing ever. Like I've really struggled with my relationship with social media. But I think that for an artist coming up, it's kind of a very important thing to have your portfolio in a very accessible place where you can send a link out to people. To constantly update your Instagram, I think is great. Using Twitter. Oh, Twitter is so...
Yeah.
Nobody likes Twitter.
Say it.
Listen, I love Twitter, but it's the worst fucking thing ever.
Yeah, he knows.
Everybody feels the same way.
Yeah, I've been the last couple of months, I've really scaled back my social media because I found myself to just be reactionary to things. And I'm not necessarily a reactionary person, but it was bringing out the worst in me. I always thought of myself as someone who could kind of see like some different angles to a thing and maybe consider other aspects to an argument. But you get on social media and you see a thing and it's just like, fuck you.
Right.
And to have that reaction right away like that, just so viscerally, I had to step away. So I'm on Facebook very, very seldom now. Maybe once or twice a week for maybe 20 minutes at a time.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
And that's it. Instagram, I'm trying to be better about Instagram. And I linked Instagram to my Sotocolor page on Facebook so that when I post up on Instagram, it goes there also. So there's still that Facebook presence. And I go on Twitter once in a while just to see what people are screaming about. And I'll post a thing or I'll post a note about my classes or whatever. And I'll interact with a couple of people who I like interacting with. But I think for people coming up, it's best to have everything direct or redirect to every other thing and make sure your portfolio is in the mix, right? So your Twitter should redirect to, you should be able to find someone's Instagram from their Twitter, right? And you should also be able to find their portfolio site from your Twitter. And if I'm on Instagram, I should be able to see you and also still be able to find your portfolio site, you know, link in bio, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And from there, you know, I should also be able to find you on Facebook and see your portfolio. Always post stuff from your portfolio and try to organize your portfolio in a way, and this is the advice I give my students in my class. Always try to organize your portfolio in a way where an editor can see your progression, where they can see your early stuff if they dig deep enough. Like a blog format is usually good, right? Like a Tumblr or whatever, something like that. Maybe not Tumblr, but something like that. Like Instagram is also good for that, in that little square thing that you see on your phone. And the only reason why I kind of mock Instagram is because it's a small image, and I wish they had a desktop presence so that an editor could see it on a big screen.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's still, Instagram is still a good vehicle to get your stuff seen, and to get, I mean, reposting is, you got to download another app to repost stuff. And like, sometimes that's a little bit too much effort. Yeah. But if you have everything redirect to a portfolio site, like if you have like Behance is a thing that people use, or a blog, or something like that, where all your stuff is organized in a way where people can see and access your stuff, and you can send a nice, simple, clean link to an editor that makes sense, not something that looks sketchy like Angel Fire, whatever, not some old shit like that.
Yeah.
Make it look like something that's not going to infect my computer.
Right.
And I think you can get some pretty good mileage out of those platforms to get your stuff seen. Okay, and also, if you want to be a penciler, show pencil samples. Don't try to be a penciler and then show how you color your own drawings, right? Because if you're really bad at coloring and you're really good at penciling, I'm not going to be able to see the pencils with all the shitty colors. So just post the drawings. If you want to be an inker, post inking samples over like really good pencils, like good pro quality pencil stuff. Not necessarily your friend who wants to do, his comic book on notebook paper. Don't ink that stuff. That's not going to get you work. To get professional pencil samples that you can ink over. If you're a colorist and you want to break in as a colorist, find professional level black and white artwork to work on. Like I'm on Facebook. I'm in a few coloring groups, and every once in a while I'll see someone say, "Hey, where can I get high quality line art to practice my coloring on?" So I'm like, "All right." So I send them links of 3-4 books at a time, and they're already like prepped and ready to go. All you got to do is just start coloring. You don't have to do any production work or anything. It's already done. It's just drop your shit in, and I tell them, if you're going to do these pages, make sure you post them so people can see them. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, use social media, be everywhere all at once. That's the beauty of social media. You can be everywhere. But not for me though. I hate social media.
For me, it's just Twitter, man. For me, it's just Twitter.
Right. No
Twitter.
Right. Look.
I mean,
Facebook, because you already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look, people are going to ask you about the Snyder Cut. So
I can't tell you how many times I've blocked Snyder Cut and Johnny Depp on my Twitter. It's ridiculous. It's just, I think there was one day where it came up like 23 times.
Wow, like that's crazy.
And this was when we did. I worked on that Rock the Vote promo stuff for DC with Dennis and Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah.
The images were coming out like once a day, and there was one day when one of the images came out. I don't remember which one it was, but all of a sudden I got inundated with "Release the Snyder Cut" hashtags.
Wow.
You can't match up two of the least related things then rock the vote and release the Snyder Cut.
Right, right. You can't see how those are related. Those are very related.
They're very related. You're trying to vote to get the Snyder Cut released early. You know, that's what it is.
There
Right?
it is.
There's a match.
23 hits I got in my mentions for release the Snyder Cut that day.
That's crazy.
That is too much.
But
right,
I mean, what did you say, John?
I was gonna say, then they want to send you a link to a petition.
Right.
Right.
We need 10,000 signatures or 10 whatever signatures. We're so close, guys.
Because that's the most important thing right now.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But another side question to the one previously asked. So, for specific companies, is it like, let's say if you want to, because I have no idea how that works. If you wanted to get your work out and get somebody like from DC to look at it or Marvel, would it be like smart to draw specific heroes or specific characters to those companies, or just draw anything and send it in? Or how does that work?
It used to be that Marvel and DC like to see their characters doing whatever they do in your style, right? And I still think that is true, in a big sense. The other thing that Marvel and DC and a lot of publishers seem to want to see more is that you can do comics in general, right? So they all stress that you pair up with a writer that you might know or may not know that you met, whatever, and just put something out. Doesn't even matter what it is, just to show that you can actually do some kind of long form work and have it released. And I like that idea. When I was coming up, it was a little different. Publishing wasn't so easy to do. There weren't that many venues for people to just team up with a friend and, put a comic together and have it printed at a place. And, it wasn't cost effective. It's a little more feasible to do now. And you have to consider it as an investment in yourself, right? And I really think that's the best way to look at it, is as an investment in yourself. I still like to see, the cool Spiderman image and whatever. But first, it seems like those publishers want to see that you can do the thing first, and then they want to see maybe a sample or a 5-page sample of what you could do with their characters. But they seem to want to see that you can do the thing first, that you can do a comic first. Okay. So, to me, that process seems to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because, there's the whole thing about putting a comic together and then putting it out and then getting it in people's hands so that they know you've done it, and then do the sample pages for whatever publisher you're looking to work for. So.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like a really crazy process, though.
Yeah.
It's a crazy process, but it's also... it's a great process to understand going in. Because you know what? If it doesn't work out where you're not the right fit for a Marvel or a DC, you could be the right fit for another place. Or you could wind up saying, hey, you know what? I love Marvel and DC, and as much as I'd love to work on those characters, maybe I like doing creator-owned stuff better, and maybe that's the way I want to go. Because you might enjoy that more. And I can't think of a better thing than... there's a lot to be said for making your mark on characters that you grew up reading, right, and characters you love, and fuck, I'm right there. But if you're going to put in that time and energy and that investment of yourself, why not be on something that you own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I think it's just a matter of your perspective. You could add to Marvel's toy box, and like Todd McFarlane, he kind of did this weird thing with the spaghetti webs on Spider-Man,
Right.
and that was an iconic thing for a very long time.
Yeah.
That's great. He made a mark, and you know, he'll live, his legacy will live on with this legendary run on Spider-Man. And there will be attributes of that that people will pick up on and incorporate into their own style. And then, but they'll still look back and say, oh, that's very Todd McFarlane. But there's a lot to be said for developing your own thing, like an Umbrella Academy or Saga or something that you own, that you control, that you can develop, something that you love. And you can release it into the world, and it can evolve the way you want it to evolve, you know. And if it makes money, that's great. If it only makes you happy, that's still a great thing.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, there's that part of it too, because I'm guessing from what I'm hearing, there's not really I guess a magic bullet or a fast track to get into professional or the comic book industry. So either you're just gonna take other people's characters, or like you said, make a big splash with that, or you do your own thing. But regardless, it's gonna take a while. Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also very competitive. So, you know, it's tough to break in, but it's just as tough to stay in. Right? Like you break in, and that's really, you're only really halfway there once you've broken in. Because you can get a fill-in issue on Spider-Man, you can get a you know, an arc on Avengers or something, but what do you do after that, right? You've got to now build a career around like this one thing. You break in, you have one thing to show, and that will set the tone of your career that's in front of you, right? So if you're a penciler, let's say, and you draw this short story that's in, you know, like Web of Spider-Man, that's in a backup, right? You got you got 5 pages to do a thing, and you wind up working in a style that you really don't like. But that's the thing now you have to show everyone. What do you do?
Right.
Like you're stuck now with that way of working, you know, and you might like it, you might not like it, you might like it for just that thing and want to do something else later. But the next person you show that thing to, that's the thing they're going to want to hire you to do. They're not going to want to hire you to do whatever else you feel like you want to do, because they don't know what that is. Right. So there's a lot of different ways you can get pigeonholed, and a lot of ways you can just kind of like stick your career right in the mud, and you got to be careful.
Did that happen to you a lot early on? Like, what was the first comic that you did professionally?
The first comic I did professionally was for an independent company called Triumphant. I inked some backgrounds on an issue of Chromium Man, and then I did some coloring for a Triumphant Unleashed special. And it was god awful. The inking job was awful. The coloring job was awful. It all sucked, right? But, you know, it's supposed to suck. It's your first thing. The first Marvel thing I did, like I said, was Deadpool. Actually, no, the first Marvel thing I did was a couple of classic X-Men covers. And then I did an issue of Deadpool, right? So the classic X-Men covers got me in the door, but it was 2 covers, and I had to shop myself around to different editors at Marvel based on 2 covers, because I sure as hell couldn't show them the Triumphant thing. That wasn't going to get me anywhere, right? So I've got 2 covers, and I'm trying to get work from 2 covers, and like everyone who already works at Marvel has been doing this for years. They're way better than I am, and I'm trying to get a foot in the door, because I've got these 2 covers, and I don't know what to do with it. And there's so many ways my career could have gone really wrong. And I wound up in the right place at the right time, because those 2 covers got me into the door of an editor's office, Matt Idelson at Marvel, when he was at Marvel. And he had nothing for me, but when I left the office, I got a call later that day at my friend's house who I was staying with, and he asked me if I wanted to do an issue of Deadpool, and I said yes. So I was in the right place at the right time. I did that issue. He said, I've got this issue of Deadpool for you. It was a Friday. He said, the trick is I need it Monday. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. So I found a way to do it. I stayed up all weekend and I did the book. I colored the book. I walked into the office on Monday because this is back when you could walk into the office. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I handed him the pages and he was happy. And that got me another thing with another editor. And then Matt hired me again for more Deadpool. And so now I was working for 2 editors. And then like the X-Men office asked me to do some covers. So now I'm in 3 offices and it all kind of snowballed.
Wow.
Right? So it was great. Right place at the right time, right? The thing was, and this is where I pigeonholed myself early in my career. The thing was, I was taking on all this stuff, and you can make decent money if you never sleep, and all you do is work, and you take everything that anyone ever offers you, right?
Yep.
And my outlook at the time was sleep is the cousin of death, and I'm just going to work as much as I can, and that'll be my thing. I'll just work. So I said yes to everything. The more I said yes, the more they offered me, the tighter the deadlines got, and me being eager to please my editors and get the next thing, I would just take every absurd deadline I could, and I hit it. I always hit it, but that's because I wasn't sleeping, right? So I became known as the guy who could save any deadline.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah,
cool
that's great until you have to sleep.
Yeah.
Because at some point you got to sleep. So, I mean, it took a while to... it didn't take a while. I've been working in comics for 25 years now. I've never missed a deadline, right? And I'm proud of that. The only thing is, at Marvel, where I spent the good portion of like the first... well, I'm still working at Marvel, but most of my comics career in the beginning, for the first like dozen years, was at Marvel, right? And Marvel just gave me any project that was in danger of missing a deadline because they knew I'd fix it. I started working at DC and they had a completely different outlook on me. DC didn't know me as the guy who could fix deadlines. So they hired me for Birds of Prey, and they had no idea that I was like this guy that could just fix deadlines. They just hired me based on my abilities. And that opened up a whole new world to me in my head, because I had tied my career and my self-worth to hitting deadlines, any deadline that was in danger. And then I realized that, you know what, I could just work on stuff because people like my work. That's what I want to do. So I just started doing more stuff at DC. And not that I didn't do stuff at Marvel, or I didn't like working at Marvel. I love those characters. I love those editors. They're all great people. But I really appreciated the outlook that DC had with my work, because it was so different from the outlook Marvel had with my work. Like, Marvel liked what I did, but like every book was a tight deadline. Whereas DC, I had, a couple of weeks to do a book, and that's a luxury for me. I'm used to like 3-4 days to do a book at Marvel. At DC, I'd get a couple of weeks, 10 days, 14 days, whatever it was. And I could do solid stuff, and I could do all the things that I wanted to do, and have fun and not kill myself, and I could sleep,
Right. Not drink so much coffee.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man, my hands started shaking so bad from coffee.
Man.
It was horrible.
I bet. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But it was, so I at Marvel, I had dug myself into this hole. And I totally understand where they were coming from and how they viewed me. And it was really my own fault, because I was so eager to please at the very beginning that I just said yes to everything. But then here I was at DC, and they hired me for different reasons, and I really liked that. So I started to try to shift the kinds of things I was doing, and I started saying no to certain things at Marvel that were a little too tight,
Yeah.
that I felt I couldn't do my best work on. Because, like I said, getting in means you're halfway there with your career, but staying in is the other half. So, like, what did I want to do with my career? Did I just want to make deadlines and turn in like minimal quality work that wasn't necessarily going to get me a better gig? Or did I want to do better work on stuff that gave me a little more time to hopefully get the better jobs? So I started to change my outlook a little bit, and I think it helped me in the long run, if anything, just for my sanity and my health.
I was about to say, yeah, because that had to be crazy, not getting any sleep, and then you got to stay up. So it was the coffee and probably candy or something.
It was so bad. I actually landed in the hospital for about a month.
Wow. No.
For 3 weeks. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks in February 2001, 2002. February 2002. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. 2 of those weeks I was in a coma.
Oh.
I was sleep deprived. I was exhausted. I had an upper respiratory infection. I needed to be put on antibiotics. I was intubated. Like you hear about these COVID patients now.
Yeah.
I've been intubated. It's not fun. Intubation is not fun at all. So it was a detriment to my health because I thought, well, I can do 6 books a month, and if I just sleep like 3-4 hours a day, I'll be okay. I thought I could handle it. I couldn't handle it. When you're young, you think you're invincible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, after a while, your body's like, nope.
Nope, you gotta sleep.
Yeah.
And how long was that process in Marvel of just like crazy schedule? Like how many years was that?
That was 98 to 2002.
Wow.
Oh.
Where I was just doing like 6 books on average between Marvel, and I was doing an Image book at the same time. And every once in a while, like some DC stuff would come in. Not a lot of DC. But yeah, from about 98 to 2002, it was just, sleep a couple hours a night and work the rest of the day. You think you can do it, but not long term.
No.
Well, I'm definitely glad you got around to, number one, finding an area that you felt more appreciated and definitely like as an artist and felt a better way to express yourself. And certainly with your health, like I'm definitely glad for that because I know that was just awful.
Thanks. Yeah. It was rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't put my family through that again.
Well, I'm definitely glad you're doing a whole lot better now. And
yes.
So you do a whole lot more for DC, or is it kind of balanced like with
It's a lot more balanced now. I think the most important thing is that I take time for myself now. I try to only work Monday through Friday. I try not to do many late nights. I might work an extra hour at night or 2. Most of the time at night, if I'm sitting in front of the computer, it's about like prep work for the next day to make sure I have the files I need, I have all my stuff open and ready to go, so I hit the ground running. And on the weekend, I try to take time for family, or like if I want to paint or draw on my own time, I'll do that. Because like I said, my son doesn't want to hang out with me anymore. He's in high school. Yeah, I just do my own thing.
So you mean to tell me like his dad draws literal superheroes
and he don't want to hang out with them?
That's the coolest thing in the world.
That's the thing. It's like
no, my son hates Star Wars. He doesn't read comics. He doesn't give a shit about what I do.
Like, what's going on? Like,
you know what he uses my occupation for street cred with his friends. That's it.
So he's like,
I know that definitely works.
Yeah. Like, so yeah, my dad he does comics. He's like, oh, who is he? Then he says your name, and he's just like, oh yeah, he's the coolest dude. Do you hang out with him? No, I don't hang out with him. I'm in high school. I'm too cool for that.
Right. Like, yeah, you know, Batman. Like, yeah, my dad draws that. No big deal. Though. Like, it's whatever.
It's whatever. I've seen it all my life. You know.
Exactly.
My son's playing video games in the room and shit, and actually, my son plays guitar and drums and piano. He's like really musically inclined, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
But he does all that shit all day, and no superheroes, no comics, no Star Wars. He's never seen any Star Wars movies all the way through. No Marvel movies. Oh no, wait. He liked Iron Man 2. That's like his favorite Marvel movie.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
He's only seen 2 Marvel movies.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But
wow.
That's
so
the one he likes.
Wow. So he has no. Yeah, I can see it. Then he has no idea.
No.
Yeah, at all.
Wow.
No. He comes in my office. I've got toys and statues and artwork and comics. I've got 3 bookcases full of comics over there, and he comes in. It doesn't mean anything to him. None of this shit.
Just walks right by him. Just
yeah.
like. Yeah.
Hey, Dad, can you move your stuff? Yeah. That's it.
Oh my god.
Can you move your books? They're my way.
Right. Oh my goodness.
He's a shithead. I love him. He's a shithead.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, but yeah, I know it broke up a little bit earlier, but I remember hearing you say something about to relax, you draw animals.
Yeah, I've been. I mean, I try to draw whatever. I mentioned before. I don't know if you caught it, but I started sketchbooks again. I started keeping sketchbooks again, and I've got a small sketchbook with just like head drawings, like structure drawings and feature drawings, just to stay limber and stuff. And lately I've been drawing and painting animals. So I've got, like, I finished one. What's today? Monday? Yeah, I finished one yesterday, and it's a giant 20 by 30 rhino painting that I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on a Strathmore illustration board. It's nice because I sat here at my desk. I've got my setup here on a drawing table, so I just kind of moved my computer stuff to the side and I set it up here, and I paint acrylics, gouache, colored pencil, watercolors. I'm sitting here, I'm painting. Just it took me a couple of days to do it, but it was so nice to do something physical with brushes and actual paint, and it was just very relaxing. Which, I mean, I'm sitting here coloring and painting all day, and then I paint to relax, and I know that's a little weird, but it was really relaxing to just do something that wasn't work related in any way whatsoever, and to have something physical. So
right.
You wouldn't have that rhino painting nearby, would you?
I kind of do. Give me a sec. I'll go grab it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Oh, jeez,
That's pretty dope.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it's pretty
dope.
big. I don't know how much detail you can see. It also
No,
kind
that's
of
nice.
under the
Yeah, that is
watercolors.
really good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
those
and you did that to
colors.
relax, like, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I relax. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, I would have a whole heart attack trying to draw. Look, I'm sweating right now just thinking about trying to draw. I can't draw animals, period, actually, but yeah, so
like
that's great.
the shading, the colors, how they blend. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh.
It was fun. I found I don't know if you can see any of this, but like I've got like there's some texture work in there. I don't know if
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that texture.
I've got like a shit ton of art supplies that I forgot I had, right? And I found these ratty old crepas things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this, I remember, this is what's left of it. Just these pieces.
Just the nubs.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom gave this to me when I was like 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
This box.
Yeah.
I don't know how I still have this, but I decided at the end of that painting that I was just going to take some of these little pieces and just start adding in some texture on them. So I got such a kick out of doing it just because these things are so old. and they actually work. They held up. So I'm surprised as hell. So I'm gonna see what else I can get out of those.
Yeah, definitely. So what was your favorite outside of doing what you do every day? What would your favorite medium be? Like color pencil or paint or
I got started with watercolor because that was probably the most accessible at the time when I was growing up. I mean, aside from like pencils and stuff, I had shitty colored pencils growing up. So it was like you'd make a mark and you couldn't even see it, like really
I
bad,
know
like really
exactly.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like watercolors were probably the thing that I like working with the most, but they're such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But I do love them. But it can be hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I don't know. For me, I've always been like a black and white. I love charcoal. That's why I think it's so interesting what you do, because I have no concept of color whatsoever at all.
Right.
It's all black and white. Like if I think about it too hard, my head's going to explode. So, but no, that's why I definitely think what you do, Chris, is really awesome.
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
And we talked about a lot of great stuff, but one of the last things I want to know is, like, in general, because it's such a great career to just be able to sit in color like all day and draw these superheroes. It's amazing. I just want to know, like, what is your favorite thing about what you do? And also, just for anybody trying to come up in the industry or work in comics, like, what advice would you give to them?
I would say whatever you're looking to do it as much as possible. Practice it as if when I'm working, I just concentrate on the work, right? If I have a day off, I mean, aside from it driving me nuts, because I don't like having a day off. But if I have a day off or any downtime whatsoever, I spend that time trying to hone my skills so that when I do work, it's that much better. So if you're looking to draw or write or paint or color or ink or whatever, do it all the time. Do it as much as you can. Still rest and take time for yourself. But anytime you can do that thing, do it. Spend time doing it. Do it from life. Do it from your own experiences. Do it from YouTube lessons, whatever it is you want to do, that's fine. However you want to expose yourself to that material in order to help develop your own skills, take those paths, but just do it. You have to put the time in, because like you said, there's no magic bullet, right? So keep a sketchbook if you want to draw. Keep a sketchbook no matter what. Unless you want to be a writer, then keep a notebook, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to do anything in the visual arts, keep a sketchbook and draw anything. Draw a bowl of fruit, draw the glass on your dining room table, draw the dishes in the sink, draw your dog, draw the people you see on the bus or on the subway, without them getting upset that you're drawing them.
Right.
Draw anything you can, whenever you can. The little sketchbook I have, I take it with me anytime I go. I don't go out much, but anytime I do go out, I try to keep that sketchbook with me, because it's small enough that I can, put I have a big pocket in my coat, but I can put it in my coat pocket, right? Or I throw it in a backpack, or just carry it in my hand, and I'm off, because all I need is the sketchbook and a pencil, and I don't even take an eraser. Just scribble it out and draw on the next page or whatever, because a sketchbook is for you, and you're the only one who's going to see it unless you share it with somebody. And that's where all your stuff can live without any judgment. So it doesn't matter how well you do it in a sketchbook. It's for you, and it's a chart of your personal growth, because the stuff at the front of the sketchbook is going to suck, but the stuff towards the end of the sketchbook is going to be so much better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I can attest for that because the front pages of my sketchbooks be looking pretty tragic.
Oh
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really great advice, Chris, and definitely like for all of our viewers and listeners out there, like, yeah, man, that's how you heard it from the man himself. Like, definitely, keep doing what you do if you want to be in visual arts. Period, like Chris said, keep a sketchbook with you, and that's something that I could definitely learn from because my sketchbook is like I can't even find it. So,
oh, he just pulled them
there you
all
go.
out.
I always
you got yours on you?
And then my notebook for my writing. So I got the best of both worlds.
Nice. There you go. That's how you do it. Yeah.
See, I got to get like you, man.
Right.
But definitely, Chris. It's been such a pleasure having you on tonight.
Yes, it has.
The pleasure was all mine. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yes, man.
Thank you for coming out.
Yes, thank you so much. And I want you to definitely let all of our viewers and listeners know, what are you working on right now? Let them know where they can find you on social media, unless they're going to ask you about the Snyder Cut. Then
let them know now. Like, don't ask about the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, don't ask about the Snyder Cut. I don't care. All right, for social media, you can find me pretty much anywhere except for Parler. You can find me, just type in Sotocolor, and you'll get my Facebook page, my Instagram, my Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. I'm on all that stuff. Just type in Sotocolor, SOTOCOLOR, right? Don't hit me up on my personal Facebook page. I'm hardly ever there because just Facebook is Facebook. I can't even with Facebook right now. I'm working on milestone stuff right now. I'm also working on a book called Happy Hill with my friend Joe Mulvey. It's an indie book. I just wrapped up my run on Deadpool for Marvel. I've also done a couple of Teen Titans stories, one for the upcoming Valentine's Day special, one that just came out in a Dark Knight Death Metal special. Milestone books drop in February. And I'm also doing a book called The Heavy with Sean Martinborough and John Workman. Damn, I can't believe I forgot the publisher. Shit. It's a big graphic novel, 180 pages or something, all gorgeous black and white with spot color. I'm working on that directly with Sean Martinborough, whom I love to death. And I have a bunch of art classes coming up. I'm actually starting one next week on January 11th. So if you're looking to learn how to paint and you're looking to learn color theory and color usage and storytelling through color, you can look for that at the Comics Experience website at comicsexperience.com. I run a couple of classes every year, usually one in the fall and one in the winter. So we're doing the winter one now. The fall one will be in September. So if you're interested in learning that stuff, you can hit me up there.
Hey, all you freaks and geeks out there, we are the Square Round Table. The Square Round Table podcast is brought to you by Science on a Postcard. Science on a Postcard is an online store that specializes in science-themed enamel badges, lanyards, environmentally friendly tote bags, notebooks, and lots more goodies that represent individuality and inclusivity in the scientific community. You could find all these wonderful products on scienceonapostcard.com. And for all our YouTube watchers out there, we will add their website and all their social media platforms in the description below. And now a word from our sponsors. The Square Roundtable podcast is brought to you by 2 Photon Art. 2 Photon is an art collective whose primary mission is to make science more accessible through science communication and art. Some of their art includes science-themed patches, jewelry, stickers, zines, and clothing, all of which contribute to the inclusivity, equality, and the overall advocacy for human rights in and out of the scientific community. You can find all of these wonderful pieces on 2photonart.com. And for all our YouTube viewers out there, we will add all of their website and social media info in the description below. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So for all of our viewers and listeners out there, definitely check out a lot of the great stuff that Chris is working on. And yeah, if you want to learn more things about visual art, definitely take part in the classes he's hosting. And no worries, we'll put all of his information in the description below. So guess what time it is, guys?
Shameless promotion.
The first of
Yes.
2021.
The first of 2021. Yes. So we are the Square Roundtable Podcast. You can catch us every Friday on MajorZoneMusic.com at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 p.m. Central Time, and 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
You can catch us on Friday on YouTube. And if you like our video, give us a like, share, subscribe. Leave us a comment about, what kind of comics you're into, favorite heroes, all stuff like that. And also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes.
And also join our Facebook group.
Yes, guys, definitely join our Facebook group. Join us on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. And yeah, drop a comment below, guys. Let us know what you thought about tonight's podcast. Drop a comment on anything except the Snyderverse. That's what I'm. So don't ask me about the Snyderverse.
Don't hashtag that at all.
Don't hashtag this one. I don't care. Nothing about the Snyderverse. But yes, guys, I would like, before we sign out, for everybody to introduce themselves one more time before we go. And I am your host, Chad Singleton.
Dimitri.
Josh Singleton.
Marcus.
I'm Christopher Sotomayor.
But yeah, guys, and this has been the Square Roundtable. We are
out.